Peace. In the Bible. Genesis chapter 6, verse 4. Very famous verse. There were giants in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, they bare children to them. The same became mighty men and were men of old, men of renown. Alright, so, it's a conspiracy theory. Alright? But you know me. I research from our perspective as a people. Alright, so let's just look at some pictures, look at some stuff I found on the internet, and then we're going to go to some books. So right here, and then on a PDF. And just to show you, and I'm going to bring it home like that. So they could Photoshop these pictures, but I mean, or that could be a fake, I mean, that could have been like a sculpture or some shit, right? So that don't mean nothing, but let's see. No, I don't have that screen share program. It costs money. Gotta buy it, baby, so give me some time. So look at this. Okay, look at that. Alright, you believe that shit? There's people right there. That's the head. Bone, look, arms. Y'all big motherfucker. You believe that shit? I don't know. The Bible says so, type, There were giants in there. Look at it. This one look. Now that one look realer. Like, look, it's two of them. Right here. Look how big them heads is. And that other one, it's kind of grainy, I guess. But this one, I don't know. Kind of on point there. I ain't here to tell you it's real, fake. I'm just going to show you something. At the end of this, I'm going to add, it's like a 15-minute video of a Christian scientist. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but just trust me. Just trust me. Look, another Nubian mummy found in North America. Yeah, I found so many. Look how big she is. So that's interesting. So look at these articles I found. Found most of these on Pinterest. A giant skeleton, 18 feet tall in Austin, Texas. Shout out to the side. June 14th. That's my birthday. If the report of the fossilized skeleton of a giant 18 feet tall. 18 feet tall skeleton. Look at that. Okay, let's see what this one is. Okay, we do it quick. Alright. Scientists on their relics of Indians who lived 700 years ago. 68 men believed to have been buried 700 years ago. Average height of these men were 7 feet. While many were much taller than 7 feet. Damn. Okay. And that, what they said it was? What is it, Utah or some shit? Where did it say? Birmingham. Oh, okay. That's somewhere else. Yeah, okay, anyway. It's the New York Times. These are old articles. Fiction. Let me see. Giant skeleton. Riverbank tomahawk on its side. Browntown, Virginia. A remarkable discovery. They found enormous size. Yeah, I'm trying to see if they got the size. Teeth were preserved. That's it. They ain't got the size on there. You see giant, you get the drift. You see, I got a few of them. Skeletons of a giant red man. Let me see. Interpreted. Let me see. I'm trying to see if they say 7 feet in height. 7 feet in height. Okay. Skeletons. Giant skeleton Indians. So you see they found in America. I ain't gonna just keep showing you all these. You see how many I get. You see it's about 8 or 9 of them. Canadian monster men. Okay. Canada. Let's see. What is this one? Alaska. Giants of Alaska. Alright. So you see the Bible may have been, who knows? Who knows? Y'all don't know. Y'all don't know, man. People ain't never told y'all nothing truthful about. Look at this. This is real quick. Look at this. This is the book, Rise and Fall of Atlantis, J.S. Jordan. I always show you the book so you can get this for yourself. Modern, which is Western, scientists and philosophers are curiously divided concerning the universe and the constant laws and order found throughout it whenever one looks. They refuse on principle to entertain the idea of superhuman, divine, creative, organizing intelligence. Yet they are forced to. See that? They don't even want to think it's a God who designed and created this goddamn society we in. I mean, this world we in, existence we in. They just like it's Big Bang and accidents and all this. I didn't even want to go here, but I'm gonna make a quick reference and explain that our star was in fact Moor, sister of the Pleiades. Heaven's star was called Moor. Moor meaning death, the metaphorical sense, falling from the higher state to the lower. Da 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 da. I wouldn't, I ain't even finna go. I'm gonna bring that home later. But just, I want y'all to understand this science. Listen, decreasing size of the earth and its organisms. Okay? There are all sorts of question marks over the current theory, not least relating to the suggestion that either the sun or the primordial earth were actually balls of superheated gases in the first place, rather than spherical masses of hyperactive electrical plasma as outlined in the last chapter. Notwithstanding this, it seems fairly certain that the Earth, in its formative period, was gigantically larger than it is now. The so-called cooling process naturally resulted in a considerable shrinkage. Excuse me. Modern science already acknowledges the fact that some elements of plant and animal kingdom in ancient times, tens of millions of years ago, were hugely larger than they are today. Examples of these involve millipedes, some 6 feet 6 inches, and insects 2 feet in length, as well as dinosaurs 200 feet in length, plus trees and even tree ferns well over 300 feet in height. Go Google, no trees on flat Earth. So, the fact natural shrinkage of virtually the whole Gaia organism, Gaia's Earth, over the last several hundred million years is conclusively not in question. What has not been acknowledged, however, is the Earth itself must have correspondingly have been gigantically bigger in those days. In addition, however, we face the thorny issue of humankind's existence at the same time. Despite this complete contrary to the modern anthropological theory, suggesting mistaken assumptions of which have become apparent in the following chapters. So you see, shit was bigger back in the day. So let's look at this real quick. On a notable evolutionary effect upon the forward momentum of the race is that of cataclysm, as Blavatsky, remarks. After the great flood of the third race, men decreased considerably in stature, and the duration of their lives was diminished, having fallen in godliness, and they mixed with animal races, I just peeped that. Neanderthals. Hot damn. Mixed with animal races, intermarried among giants and pygmies. Looky there. The later comment is a reference to the dwarf remnants of the polar second race, the homogeneous mass of monsters created by nature at that time. Bearing in mind that the secret doctrine has gigantic Lemurian proto-humans as some 60 to 70 feet tall. Oh, my daughter calling. God, hold on. Peace, I gotta go. Alright, my daughter called, so I had to end my video. I'm gonna pick up where I left off, and then I'm gonna finish it up. And then I'm gonna put this video at the end so you see the science behind all of this. In the case of our local system, the nebula in question was regarded as the Pleiades. Hence, it was here, so ancient tradition had it, that the great primordial cosmic spirits, who were the actual progenitors of humankind, fell and thereby metaphorically died into celestial existence. Hence, also the state became known as Moor. Death, myth, allegory, Moor, ancient Greek story, blah blah blah. The root, hence, also the widespread use amongst the ancients and many languages today of the root Moor, signifying death. Originally, have a temporary death, the divine spark fell into the lesser state. I'm reading it like this because I already put this on this other video, but I'm doing this to bring it into what I'm bringing it into. You understand me? So let's go. Yeah, I gotta go. Yeah. Right. Found this book. Peep the Nazi symbol. We're not gonna go there. Found this book. I don't remember where it was written. Okay, you see the Phoenician origin of the Britons, Scots, and Anglo-Saxons. See, if you know, like I've already shown, Phoenicians was black folks. I've already shown. And I show you. I don't know if I've shown you, but we Hidden Color showing you the original Britons was black folks, Moors. Okay, so if you didn't know, the original Scots, same thing, and the descents of these, the Anglo-Saxons, which is, you know what? I wonder, by my understanding, this is the pale skin European, but I wonder if that's Mexicans. I bet that's Mexicans. I wouldn't be surprised, because if you Google, watch this, I can show you. I love that I got my computer now. I can show you what I'm talking about. Something my daughter was talking about. Let me see, Christopher. I can't spell for shit. I grew up with a computer, so I always had spell check. Christopher Columbus was black. Wait for it. Christopher Columbus was black. God damn. See, Christopher Columbus was a mixed breed. Like a Mexican. Like Obama. Or like Obama. You know what I'm saying? But I think more like a, who we say? A Mexican. I mean, Spanish. You know what I mean? Christopher Columbus. New research done by University of Cambridge proves conclusively that Christopher Columbus was black. Blah, 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 blah. From a native descent. African descent. So, I mean, I'm just putting that out there. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, let me show you what I'm talking about in this book. Let me show you where it is, too. It's like the last thing in the goddamn book. I kid you not. I gotta go all the way down here. Let me see. I know what page it is. I'm on, I could have paused this, but I'm showing you that it's at the end of the book. Purposely. I say purposely, but whatever. And I'm going to show you why it's purposely, too. But we'll see. All right. What does that say? Let's see. Let's zoom in there. All right. In that thing. Hold on. You know how you try to do something? Get too cocky and you fuck something up. All right. Moor or Amorite cup mark inscription with Sumerian script on a tomb of an Aryan sun priestess of about 4,000 BC. So this is written on something from 4,000 years ago. No, excuse me, 4,000 BC is 6,000 years ago. Okay. If we know, I love how I got my computer. I ain't got to just tell y'all this. I can show you. Pale skin. No. Pale skin, watch. 6,000 years. Let's see if I can find it that way. New gene reveals evolution of human skin color. Research skin color, 50 picture, for example, documentation of gene called link pale skin to the European population in the past 6,000 years. I ain't even gotta go deep, nigga. Look, pale skin swept through European population 6,000 years ago. Before that, dark skin. Okay. So anyway, so you see this was written 6,000 years ago. So it's no questions. These people didn't exist when this was written. Okay. This uniquely important archaic inscription figured at a force through its explanatory Sumerian script, an additional key, the prehistoric cup mark script of early Britain, etc. Also attests the use of the cup mark script by the Moors or Amorites, who therein are called, looky there, niggas, Aryans. Remember the Hitler thing? The Aryan nation. It moreover established still further the newly found fact that the large population of the world used by the Aryan Moors or Amorites so early, about 4,000 BC, were radically identical in sound and meaning with the common words in our modern English. So you see, Moors are Aryans. So in this book, when he was talking about the Proto-Aryan people, Where was that at? Hold on, let me find it. I forgot about this part in this book. By this stage, the second invasion of Egypt and the Indo-Caucasian humankind of the day, don't get lost in the words, must have been a height not dissimilar to that of the above average male, American, or Australian. The reason why he said Australian, you should know Australianoid and Negroid is the Aboriginal people. Physique of today. In other words, something well over 6 and 6 foot inches. Blavatsky mentions that man's height was reduced from 15 to 12 or to 15 to 10 or 12 feet ever since the third subrace of the Aryan stock. See, since then it had been steadily decreasing. As the third Indo-Caucasian subrace must have commenced its existence that long ago, and with succeeding four sub-races commencing about 300,000, 350,000 years ago, we can see that the still current fifth subrace had its evolutionary genesis about 50, 100, or to 100,000 years ago. However, that is just a little more than recent anthropology is prepared to agree for the Homo sapien because of its very first appearance upon our planet some 180,000 years ago. This discrepancy between the two chronologies is somewhat more than marked. Rather, interestingly enough, given the original Atlanto-Aryan of the Maghreb were supposed to be giants, we find that there is some archaeological evidence that support the idea. In the earlier 20th century, a French army captain called Le Franchard discovered in Morocco a cache of several hundred double-edged axes weighing 17 pounds and 8 ounces. The sheer weight and size of these such has been calculated. They have required a giant no less than 13 feet in height to lift and wield it properly. The Roman writer, that guy, wrote in his day that skeletons of a number of giants were found at Carthage, Hannibal. In 1858, European Scientific Journal mentioned finding by archaeologists also at Carthage a sarcophagus full with giant skeletons. Yada, yada, yada. I just want you to show you Aryan, Maghreb. Maghreb is America. Maghreb Al Aqsa, the most extreme West America. I think I can show you that. Hold on. All right. So I found a Moorish website. almorishpresswordpress.com, but he shows you what he's talking about. I hate when I go to Moors and saying it because people be like, "Oh, Moors saying that," But whatever, you can look it up; it'll show you. But this is kind of the hidden thing on purpose because they don't want you to understand that when you're reading your history. But Alaska is Alaska, as you can see, the furthest, most extreme. You see, that's where that word comes from: the greater land, more land with the sun. Alaska, Morocco, the land of the setting sun. The Al-Maghrib Al-Aqsa, Morocco, is the furthest west, the western hemisphere. So you're talking about America, you see? Morocco, America, Al-Morocco, most westlands. You see what I'm saying? So, just to show you, the Aryan, the Maghreb, all right, talking about America. And I just showed you another book that the Aryans, right, were the Amorites, right? They said so. Those people who called Aryans, they was the Amorites. So what you gonna say? Nah, they don't know what they talking about. Type shit. Like some of y'all be coming with just some of the weirdest arguments. I'll be like, what are you talking about? Anyway, hold on, I ain't through. We're gonna bring it home with this. Actual remote Amorite. No. Amorite Phoenician mines, contemporary. The Amorite Phoenician 10 mines. Okay, the Amorites were Phoenicians. You see? Told you. I mean, that's what I told you. It's what Moor's been telling you, right? He means this is the goddamn science, people. Hold on. Let me show you. I'll find where it is. Look at that. Ucusama, Missouri. Okay. This seems possible for that the 10 land beyond the Mediterranean, the country of Kasi people captured by Sargon I, and the lying beyond the frontier of Egypt, or Misr, it was thus account the name. That frontier, or Misr, i.e. Egypt. Misr. But hold on. Regarding the tradition that giants occupied Britain before Brutus, that the giants were the builders of the stone circles, the megaliths, the giant tombs in Britain, Mauritania, Sardinia, and other places colonized by the Phoenicians. It is significant that Moor, Maru, Morata, Amorite, Syrian, Phoenician, Palestine are called giants by the Hebrews in the Old Testament. They are moreover also called by the sons of Anak, Skada, yada yada yada, giants. What? I'm gonna let you hear the sayings. Peace.
The world before the flood can be represented like this. We have a pristine world of beauty with a great sea, a great ocean, and seas fingering into the landmass. And that world was surrounded by a firmament canopy. That canopy of water was approximately 11 miles above the earth. Now, that firmament canopy of water did a wonderful thing. It filtered out the shortwave radiation from the sun and from stellar bodies. But the long wave and mid-spectral radiation would come right on in. That did something wonderful. The world before the flood had greater atmospheric pressure because of the gravitational weight of that firmament pushing in on the atmosphere. The world before the flood was protected from the harmful radiation. And that produced some very wonderful things. Essentially, everything in the fossil record was larger in the past than it is today. The great white shark today gets 36 feet long, but in the fossil record, he is 60 feet long. Something must explain that. In addition to that, this lepidodendron has its counterpart today. The very same form is the lycopsid club moss. It gets 16 inches tall at best. But in the fossil record, that very same plant is 150 feet tall. We're not evolving. We've lost something in the process, or lost the conditions that would permit the full expression of the life form. Did you get that? We are building a context at Glen Rose for the first time in history called the hyperbaric biosphere. And in that biosphere, we're going to be having 2.18 atmospheres of pressure. That's what the best of our research shows. That canopy, firmament, pushing in on the atmosphere would have introduced 2.18 atmospheres of pressure. We're going to introduce 25% oxygen, 0.25% CO2, carbon dioxide. That should make a world of difference, because that's what academically we find indicated in the fossil record. What will that do? Well, we have dragonflies today. Here in East Texas, the dragonflies get how big? About a 4-inch wingspan, maybe 5 inches. In the fossil record, that very same life form, the dragonfly, had a 36-inch wingspan. What explains that? The evolutionary concept cannot really explain that, because if the processes with increased energy, which I'll address in the next lecture, with increased complexity, is causing the forms to accelerate in complexity, they certainly should accelerate in dexterity and size. Well, that's not the case. We find they were bigger in the past. Human life forms were larger in the past, and incidentally, they were more intelligent in the past. But given these circumstances, with a little over 2 atmospheres of pressure, 25% oxygen in contrast to today's 21% oxygen, the brain, from conception on, would be hyperoxygenated, not to the point of toxicity. This is the perfect level, a little over 2 atmospheres of pressure, 25% oxygen. In the fetal formation of the brain, it would be enlarged to begin with. The cellular structure would be fed and nurtured from before the child was born. Then you would live in a context where your brain would be totally fed in all its capacity with oxygen. That means that every person sitting in this audience if you were to live under these conditions, and having been born under those conditions, would put Albert Einstein to shame in your intellectual capacity. You have that capacity. Why don't you use it? Well, we really can't to our fullest capacity. But if our brains, if the blood plasma were hyperoxygenated today, that would solve a lot of problems. Oh, that does solve a lot of problems, including the dinosaurs. You see, with their small lung capacity, the hemoglobin cell can only take 4 oxygen molecules. Did you know that? The hemoglobin in the blood is saturated with 4 oxygen molecules. That's all it can take. And you can't get enough oxygen to the deep cell tissue of such bulk, size. But Texas A&M University has found that under 2 atmospheres of pressure with slightly enriched oxygen, all the blood plasma becomes saturated with oxygen. That means that overnight, an open wound heals. Today it takes 14 days for that open wound to heal. But overnight, under those hyperoxygenated contexts, an open wound heals. Now let's take it further. I think probably the best illustration of what it was like before the flood, or what it was like to recuperate before the flood, is found in the experience of a little girl, probably the most famous little girl in the world. Does anyone here recognize the name Jessica McClure? How many recognize the name Jessica McClure? Every hand in the building as far as I can see. Who's that little girl? She's a little girl who fell in a well, Midland, Texas. 58 and a half hours, her right leg was suspended behind her back. And for 58 and a half hours, her right foot was in her face. That's a pretty difficult position to be in. She's a brave little girl. I'm not sure I could have held out that long. When they got to her, her right foot, because of its suspension and the lack of blood supply and oxygen, her right foot was black. And they were sure they were going to have to amputate her foot. You know what they did for that little girl? They rushed her to the Midland Hospital, rushed her to a hyperbaric medical chamber. They put her under 2+ atmospheres of pressure, and they gave her 100% oxygen because they needed a quick fix. Now, she couldn't live under 100% oxygen for long periods of time, but they certainly needed it quickly. So they essentially put her in a context like pre-flood man had. What happened to her right foot? In a few hours, it turned pink. And then her toes began to turn pink. They thought at first they'd lose the entire foot. Then they thought, well, we're not going to lose the foot, we'll lose all her toes. Then her big toe turned pink. Second, third, fourth. They finally lost the little pinky because it wouldn't turn pink. Well, what I'm doing is introducing an overview of the creation model. It appears that her body was designed to function and repair itself under those circumstances. Well, if that's so, her body had to be designed. And if that's so, her long-lost predecessors lived under such a context. Well, that's the creation model. With a firmament canopy of water suspended above the earth, the furnace was in the floor, but not only would that have tremendous effects physiologically for animals, it would have tremendous effects for vegetation. And that effect would be as follows. It has been found that if you increase carbon dioxide and increase pressure, the plants grow tremendously. In fact, it has been found by experimentation of a Japanese physicist, Dr. Kiyomori, Keio University, Tokyo, Japan, who had a problem. Dr. Kiyomori lived in his house, but his office was in the basement. There's Dr. Mori behind his desk. You'd recognize him anywhere, wouldn't you? Hope the cameras get a close-up. That's Dr. Mori, believe it or not. But he has a problem. He doesn't have enough light in his basement, and he doesn't want to pay for any more electricity. That's always a problem. But Dr. Mori had an ingenious idea. He knew what fiber optics would do, and he had some fiber optic cable at the university. So he brought some home, with or without permission, I don't know. He brought some home and he ran it out the roof. Ran it through the rafters, down the walls, and into the basement. And sure enough, it worked. You know how fiber optic cables work. You can tie them in a knot, shine a light in one end, and the light will just follow all the way through the knot and come out the other end. Well, that's what happened here. So it worked. Light from the sun struck the cable, came right on down, and came out the bottom into his basement. Beautiful. What he forgot was that the dimension of the fiber optic cable that he had filtered out the ultraviolet spectrum of light. Now, that's important. It's the ultraviolet that's giving us most of the trouble we have today. In the next lecture, you'll see how it's destroying us. It's the ultraviolet that is a major problem. All right? That fiber optic cable filtered out the ultraviolet so that the light he got in his basement was essentially like the light we got before the flood, because water also filters out ultraviolet and shortwave radiation. Did you get that? The light that he got was like the light we had before the flood. So, Dr. Mori, being Japanese, wanted to plant something living. And he put a little tomato plant, just a natural tomato plant, in his basement. In a few weeks, the thing grew out of control. He knew he had something. So he went outside, built a platform, shielded that platform from ultraviolet radiation with a shielding process, plastic shielding process, put his tomato plant there, but he did something else. He knew that tomato plant, if it was going to grow that fast, needed a lot more carbon dioxide. Indications are in the fossil record that we had a lot more carbon dioxide than we had in the past. So he increased the carbon dioxide and pressure at the base of his plant. Guess what happened to his plant, his tomato plant? It grew. How well did it grow? Now remember, what he's doing is actually simulating primitively what it was like before the flood. What about those ages in the biblical record? Are they literal? Well, let's see if it'll do that for tomato plants. It ought to do that for us under those circumstances, shouldn't it? How old do you think would be a good age to live and still be in control and in command of your faculties? 80? Multiply 80 by 12. What do you get? 960. That has a 12-fold lifespan. Multiply your 80 by 12 and you get 960 years. That means that in certainly academic theory, the capability under those circumstances is for some of your ancestors to have lived 960 years. Did they? Sure they did. Methuselah lived older than that. Adam almost lived that long. But now it's better still. Let me wind up this introductory concept. This is just an overview. We've only introduced the concept. One of the nation's leading scholars is Dr. Edward Blick, University of Oklahoma, head of Aerospace Engineering Department. Dr. Edward Blick has stated in print that under these circumstances, with the firmament canopy filtering out the ultraviolet radiation, and under these circumstances, with the added pressure introduced by the gravitational weight of that firmament pushing in on the atmosphere, under those circumstances, with man's large lung capacity, man could run up to 200 miles without fatigue. How many would like to be able to run 200 miles without fatigue? Sure. How many would like to be able to run 200 miles? Well, how many would like to be able to run at all? Under those circumstances, it was absolutely utopian. But I've only touched the hem of the garment. It's much better still. Stay tuned. After a short break, we'll come back to the next lecture.
All right, peace. What it is, this book right here proves that theory of evolution is bullshit. So let's go through it. Dead Man's Secrets by Jonathan Gray. Yeah. Google it. It's free. Mom, doing video. Please. Yeah. Yes, let me do my video. the laws of thermodynamics. Okay, this book is basically a conversation between like 4 or 5 archaeologists. 4 or 5 of them, all 4 or 5 archaeologists. Yes, and they having a conversation about finds that they done found and what conclusions they can come to based on all the science and stuff that's not necessarily reported. Okay, so these are, like I said, archaeologists and I don't know, smart people, if you will, having a conversation about archaeology. Mom, be quiet. I'm doing my video. Move, go. Okay. The 2 laws of thermodynamics are accepted by physicists as perhaps the most secure generalizations from experience that we have, he said. The physicist does not hesitate to apply the 2 laws to any concrete physical situation in the confidence that nature will not let him down. It's kind of hard to read on his phone. Matter of fact, let me just read the book. Significantly, these laws of thermodynamics apply not only in the physics and chemistry, but also in biology and geology. They have always proved valid whenever tested. All right? Y'all understand this? Now, so you say again, the elevator door. So it's a story. He's telling a story. Okay, anyway, down here. Well, said Jacob, it's quite simple. Whoa. Whoa. Yeah, I messed my. Hold on. Back up. Okay, well, the first law of energy conservation, you see, although energy can be converted from one form to another, the total amount remains unchanged. That is, energy is never being neither created nor destroyed. All right, y'all know the law of thermodynamics, right? It means energy can never be created nor destroyed. So energy is never being created nor destroyed. Okay, listen to that. Energy is never being created nor destroyed. Okay, all right, now listen. The second law is the law of decay. It affirms that although the total amount remains unchanged, there is always a tendency for it to become less available for useful work. Now, these are the 2 laws of thermodynamics, meaning, okay, yeah, I'm not going to explain it. I'm going to let them explain it because they're smarter than me. I already read that first one. I'm going to go here. Well, said Jacob, it is quite simple. The second law of thermodynamics affirms that there is a universal tendency towards deterioration, okay? A transformation from a more orderly state to a less orderly state, de-energization. All right, now, they talking some more. Let things fall. Hold on. Left to themselves, things tend to fall apart and reach a state of chaos. If you don't know, melanin is chaos. Consequently, where chromosomes and gene mutations occur, they are always detrimental rather than beneficial. Whoa. Okay, hold on. If you know what the European is, he's a later day mutation. You know what they just say? Chromosomes and genes mutations occur. They are always detrimental rather than beneficial. I rather like the way Isaac, you see that last name, puts it. As far as we know, all changes are in the direction of increasing entropy, of increasing disorder, of increasing randomness, of running down. Entropy. I had to look that up. So I went and looked that up real quick. Entropy. Check it out. A measure of degree of disorder in a substance or a system. Entropy always increases and the available energy diminishes in a closed system as the universe. Okay? So dude, are you getting what I'm putting down? All right? Listen. Yes, it is. Let's not kid ourselves, broadly speaking. Evolution implies increasing organization and complexity in the universe and is an effect of a doctrine of continuous creation. The first law of thermodynamics affirms, however, that creation is no longer occurring, while the second law states that the original creation is decreasing in organization and complexity. Listen, now this the cat who telling the story. Check it out. I was almost rendered immobile when I realized what Jacob was saying. Evolution is an absolute denial of the second law of thermodynamics. What? Do y'all get that? Do you? Okay, yes. You mean, Jacob, that evolution requires a universal principle of upward change, whereas the second law is a universal principle of downward change. You see? Yes, put simply, Denise, evolution and the second law cannot both be true. As for the second law of thermodynamics, it has been confirmed by numerous and varied scientific tests, while evolution is, and always has been, a theoretical model not even capable of scientific tests. Goddamn. Ain't none of y'all involved from no monkeys. You see that? You see that? No? Hold on. Biblical statement as to the destiny of man throughout history appears to have more relevance than they have been given credit for. Check it out. For example, Genesis' assertion that God finished creation and rested from all his work of creation is a simple statement that the process of creation no longer operates. A fact which is thoroughly verified by the two universal laws of dynamics. So the Bible is right. And all these old fake ass scientists lying to your ass. What I got to say? No, that don't mean nothing. Thermodynamics, baby. So, evolution is a hoax. It's bullshit. We already know why that monkey is in them. And if you don't, go look up Yakub. Peace.